By various reckonings, we're living in what is called the Kali Yuga, the age when passions dominate the mind and where spiritual truth is quite obscure. It's often hard to keep it in mind that this is a Kali Yuga when one can get on a jet plane and go all over the place. In fact, Sri Yukteswar Giri says that it's not the Kali Yuga. He says they were so dumb when they figured out what the different ages were. It happened to be Kali Yuga when they were doing their computations. And they couldn't even figure out when this stupid era was happening. So there became a juicy controversy. Is it the Kali Yuga or not? We're so deprived we can't tell whether it's really the age of darkness. And so I was at one time of the group, as you know, one of our masters is Sri Yukteswar Giri in our line of Kriya. And so I was at one time in the awkward position of not knowing which yuga it was. Because we have many of the characteristics of the following yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, when people become aware of subtle energies and when electricity begins to dominate, and when various scientific experiments and various awarenesses of the circulation of things take place, rather than here it comes and there it went, and what's its cyclical nature, and will it ever be back again, and what was that? Well, Sri Ramakrishna says it's the Kali Yuga. Sri Yukteswar says it's the Dwapara Yuga. What yuga is this? He says, oh, it's the Kali Yuga beyond all doubt, because morally and emotionally we fill all the requirements. Just look at any newscast, there's no doubt that this is an age when there is great decline and great moral decay, and there's this great character crisis. And Yukteswar says, yes, you can notice that on the TV screen during the news, but look at the TV set itself. I say it's Dwapara. And so you've got this nice, I guess it's almost name your yuga time, but having studied the characteristics of consciousness of the people at the time of Kali Yuga, we're really in it thick. We're very thickly in Kali Yuga. I just love what one fellow does, one of these beautiful saints who comes to visit us from time to time. I says, well, no, what is it? He says, it's both, you see. There's a long Kali Yuga, and then there are many other little yugas in it. So this is the Dwapara part of the Kali Yuga, the long one. And if you come from India and you're traveling around, you've got to be ready, at all these different places to show it's all one. So that's the service he did here. He says, all one. And it all dovetailed together there. Well, boy, do I wish it were a full-fledged Dwapara Yuga, and that the long siege of passion dominating mind, lust and greed dominating our higher sensitivity were all past. But this week, one of our dear devotees, not exactly a member of our group here this morning, but a member in one of our classes, was raped. And there are so many things going on out there in the world. You just have to look at a newscast. And I pray that God bless this dear girl, this dear lady, just raped in Laguna. Today, people are so confused, they don't know right from wrong. And that's one characteristic of the Kali Yuga. People just don't know which way is up. They're so involved in their ego and their own desires, what they want, their deep feelings, which are very often animalistic, dominate. And there's so much confusion that a number of the men are seriously asking me, Do you mean it's important we stay with one girl? After all this, I mean, I'm talking about people who have been with the center for a while. Do you mean to say we create a bad atmosphere if we're having sex with many other girls? What's it saying there? Like it's news. It's a Kali Yuga. I don't know if you're aware. You wouldn't believe how difficult a time we've had just getting people who say they're going to be there, or people who say they're going to do a certain job to do it. It's been incredibly difficult. And so we've had these, and the observation is it's a Kali Yuga. Our nation's leaders, our leaders have often cheated us, lied to us, taken bribes in our White House. We're thick-headed about spiritual guidance. Yogananda, who started a major organization, said he was going to incarnate, and in 200 years he'd be back to serve humanity, but he said he wouldn't even recognize the message he gave in this particular century. He's not even going to be able to recognize. It's going to have no similarity to what he said. Thick. Well, then there's this bit about avatars, that in this time of confusion, especially in the age of Kali Yuga, what happens is the Lord himself says, oh, it's so rough on the people, and they have no pole stars, no guiding examples, no example of how to live. Therefore, the Lord says, I myself am going to take a form and walk among the people and show them how you can keep it together in spite of terrible examples everywhere. In fact, we're going to give the people who are supposed to be leading the thought some examples of how to do it so they can get in on it too. And so the most recent time is in controversy. This is just part of Kali Yuga. I mean, who's the most recent avatar? I mean, you can say that out on the street corner and you might hear some disturbing echoes. I am! When I spent a summer working in a home for the senile, one guy said I mean, this is almost like a joke from Reader's Digest. I mean, it's just got its nice, simple lines. The guy said to one of the attendants, you're not supposed to walk in here. And the guy says, well, why not? It's my job. And the guy says, well, I am John the Baptist. And I tell you that, you're not supposed to be walking around here. And the guy says, well, who said you are John the Baptist? The guy says, Jesus did. A voice down the hall says, I did not. Sometimes you wonder if they're in there actually reading scripts to figure out how to throw the management off. Well, based on as many clear signs and the words of many, many wise ones, the avatar came most recently. And I think this is true, but you don't have to believe this. Those of you who are new to the center, especially, you must make your own choice. You must think it through, because it's an important thing to think about. Sri Ramakrishna was his name, and the signs of the avatar are virgin birth. His father was some distance away. His mother stood in front of the Shiva temple, and this blazing light, this bright, powerful light, came from deep in this temple. It moved into her womb, and she was with child. This has happened a few times in history, and most often in the West we've only heard of it happening once. And there were other signs. He was preceded by messengers saying he was coming, and during his life he showed God's grace alone, just This divine grace alone bestowed by the avatar was sufficient to take prostitutes and tax collectors and Girish Ghosh, one of the most gauche people around, and make him into a great saint. The thing is, the avatar comes and he really shows the way, and his work's among the lowly generally. Well, Sri Ramakrishna has come, and I think he is the avatar of this age, and it's significant today that Ramakrishna is not a household word. In fact, it's almost a fearful word. People going to the airport are afraid they're going to be hustled by that weird Ramakrishna group. And so it's hard to tell the difference between Ramakrishna and Hare Krishna. And poor Krishna, he's not got the best PR people in the world, you know. Well, Ramakrishna has come. Most people haven't noticed. And so the message for the people of today, the message for this age, is still being, it's still seeping into our consciousness, let's put it that way. It's in the atmosphere, it's in the environment, there are signs of it in books, but it's still radiating and hopeful of having a little access to our mind and our heart. Sri Ramakrishna came and showed how to live in this yuga, how to live in this age. And because we're quite beclouded, he made it quite simple. And I think when I hear his basic message that it's the Lord talking to me as a human being, the Lord telling humanity how to do it, because certainly life is rough, especially when we have got such faulty leadership, and especially when we're dwelling in a character crisis. So here are some of his basic clues for how to make it today. Despite these various problems, you and I can live a holy, wonderful life, even if it is an age of darkness, and how to change this darkness into light, how to do your part to save humanity from this darkness, because this darkness is primarily ignorance. When people choose to ignore or turn their back on the divine light, or the divine one. So, in temptations, and there certainly are temptations, we may be the most tempted nation because we can afford so many temptations. Like Baba Haridas said to me, why is there so much pain in America? I've been to so many poor nations, and there's so much pain in America. There's more pain in America than anywhere else because of frustrated desires. That's hard to believe, but in India, there is lots of pain. But I don't think it measures up to the pain that people are carrying around here. There is kind of a freedom of the mind and a relaxation of the eyes, and you walk down streets in India, at first you think everybody's a saint. Because walk down our streets, it's obvious, the signs of neurosis. And in India, there are lots of problems, but there is certainly a more joyous, spontaneous dance with life, even among those who've had their arms chopped off to be better beggars. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the guy's joy while he's chasing our taxi, waving these stumps at us. He was not burdened like we tend to be in our various hassles. I'm just making that observation. Anyway, here we are in a land with all kinds of temptations and all kinds of means to fulfill these, and our lifespan's getting long enough to lead a good number of decades of dissipation. Now, if you're tempted a lot, say, oh God, this is your universe. I am your creation, or I am your child. As a mother lifts up the child and protects this child, or as a father, seeing the child in danger, just sweeps that kid up into his arms and takes the kid away, or stands there and says, go play somewhere else. Just as a father or a mother can pick you up and protect you, God can. In every instance of being threatened by temptation, he says, you don't have to know an elaborate how to go out the third eye. Just say, I am your child. I need your help in this temptation. And the Lord will just pick you up or surround you with healing light or change the temptation or make it quake or make the person go away or whatever the problem is. Just, I am your child. Help me. And the temptation can be diminished just like that. Instantaneous. Don't knock it till you tried it. Sounds too easy. Well, he came to make it real easy. He says, you can just call out to God as a kid calls out to its parent, God, whom you may not be able to see, this invisible power, whatever you want to call it. You just call out to it, and it will make a manifestation to protect you at any and every time. You can call it off by saying, yeah, there's a temptation I've been wanting for a long time. And then you can say, well, I'll see if God will protect me for this one because, boy, it sure looks good, but maybe he'll protect me. And in which case, then, so be it, God's will. Well, if you call on God's will like that, forget it. You're going to get to enjoy the temptation. Or you can say, God, you're the power of the universe. Save me. Just remember, you're the power that runs the stars, the moon, the tides. You're the power. Save me. And as part, by aligning yourself with whole universal power, you're part of the whole, your power guides the whole universe, and aligning yourself with that means there's incredible power to save you at any given instance, no matter what the Maya and Guk. When your life is painful, oh, Divine Mother, he loved to think of God as a mother, a loving mother, because he says human love, the mother for the child, is the closest way a person can conceive of the love of God, because God is that loving only more. Life is painful. Oh, Divine Mother, you are transforming me through my karmas into a divinized playmate in your eternal love play. You can shorten that. Oh, Divine Mother, you are transforming me. What happens is suddenly your pain becomes very light. When tamas guna is strong, tamas guna means a quality of inertness. I don't want to go. I don't care. The quality that shoots people down. When tamas is strong, he says, do something. Do something. Like get a chant going. Get something dynamic moving. Start chanting. Start writing God's name. Do a puja. Get something going. You could say, oh Mother, your Shakti plays through me. Ami yantra tumi yantri. I am your instrument. You are the operator. Then there's another familiar quality, rajas guna. Activity for activity's sake. One quality in which you don't stop to think, or the consciousness is kind of blunted to meaning, purpose, and value in one's activity. Just do. And when that happens, at least it's a sign you're getting out of tamas guna. When rajas is strong, oh holy God, whoever God is to you, I dedicate all these works to you. No matter how many of these I do, I dedicate them to you. And as a result, you become more and more holy in your labor. So your next problem is sattvas guna. Sattvas is this beautiful balanced state, supposedly. But in this state, you begin to generally have some peace of mind. And you decide, I don't want to go out there in that hassle, in that rat race. The thought of going to work or doing something against all these odds is just too painful. So when sattvas guna is strong, oh holy God, I live for you, not for myself. I live for you. I live not only to enjoy you, but to serve your work on this earth. I live not only to enjoy you, but to serve your mission, this emanation which we call creation. I live to serve that. When you're worried, chant God's name. He says, just chant the name, chant the name. That was his Antidote for just about any human problem. Chant God's name. When you're angry, be angry that other feelings are more dominant than your devotion for God. God, how can I allow this stupid feeling to dominate my devotion for you? Get angry. Don't worry about it. Be really angry, but at least be angry at the right thing. Anger is a desire you have that's been blocked. Unless you know of an exception. I'm looking for an exception. A person who's actually angry, in which there is not a number of blocked desires or which there is not a particular blocked desire. I've never found an exception. And the yogis say anger is from frustrated desire. So when you're angry, God, I'm angry that other feelings are more dominant than my devotion for you. When lustful, yearn for the divine beloved, nothing else. Surely we have not come here just to procreate or to play around with nerve thrills while frustrating procreation. Surely that's not the point for which we have come to this planet and taken a body. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying if that's the aim of life, let's all get big fur coats and walk on all fours. With long tails and sharp, pointy ears. When lustful, yearn for the divine beloved, nothing less. I yearn for you, God. You, only you can give me permanent satisfaction. Get it up into the chest instead of in the second and third chakras. Get it up into the chest. And you'll find yourself in rapture. You'll find yourself so fulfilled. The sadhana for people of the Kali Yuga. Don't you wish it'd be optional? We could sign up for different yugas. Dwapara looks a little better, you know. And the answer is, it is optional. For some reason, here we are. We're in this thing together. Our desires, our consciousness, here we are. The beautiful thing is the sadhana is almost easier in this era. You have to really be good at Patanjali in other eras. Whereas you can almost slough through, you know. Give Patanjali and his Yoga Sutras just a little bit of your mind here in this. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but I'm saying that very rare is the person who is great at Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. And if that person's really good, it's due to past life sadhana. Sadhana would really help from Patanjali's viewpoint, of course. But Ramakrishna looked at humanity and he heard the cries of humanity. That's why he came. So, well, come to think of it, this looks like a heavy trip, I'm about to say. Sadhana for this age, because of the way it starts out. He says, practice telling and doing the truth. You go, when you stop to think of that. Telling the truth. And when you give your word, carrying it out, that's important to God? Well, we can't possibly. So he started out pretty heavy. Maybe he started out just before that saying something like, chant God's name and work up to the truth. But the sadhana, the way out, this is such an untruthful age. This is the cause of so much of our Maya. You know, so much deceit involved in fulfilling our greed and our lust. So much trickiness, so much lying. So much lying to ourselves about how great we are or how terrible we are. We tell ourselves we're terrible too, and very often it's a lie. Practice telling and doing the truth. That's the main sadhana. He didn't say ashanas. He didn't say headstand your way to the next yuga. In fact, I just love this classical story. There was this yogi sitting in samadhi. And he was sitting there a long time. In fact, the tree roots and everything had begun to kind of grow around him because he'd been there so long. And some great explorers found this guy and disturbed his samadhi. So he opened his eyes and he says, "What yuga is this?" And they said, "Kali Yuga." He says, "Oh." Thought he'd sit out the yuga, just close his eyes, go back into samadhi, and I love it. It's a great story. Waiting for the next yuga to go by. Telling and doing the truth. He made that such an important part. You haven't really begun your sadhana unless you started to love and appreciate the truth. Because if you want God to come, God is the truth. You think you can deceive your way to have God? Or fake yourself out? Lie, cheat, whatever? God's the truth. You really want God? If you want God, it involves getting aligned with the way that the sun and the stars and the moon and the earth move. God's truth. It means getting aligned with the way your heart beats and the thoughts move harmoniously within the mind. The way the energy moves in the spine. Telling and doing the truth is a sadhana for the age. Needless to say, it'd be wonderful to say love is a sadhana for the age. How I wish he'd said that. But he says you got to tell and do the truth in order to find love. You can't even have love until you can tell and do the truth. But he said the truth is kind. If you use truth as a weapon to stick people with, hurt, it's questionable. You've got to find discrimination in terms of being able to know what the truth is and the expression of truth. The next part of sadhana is to chant the name. In terms of being able to focus the mind and the heart and have realization, chant the name. He didn't say, open the Sahasrara, which of course will open. He didn't say, zip out through the third eye. He didn't even really say, expand the heart. But of course, that's the main first thing that happens, or early thing anyway, not first. Chant the name. And I don't know, maybe one day we might rent a coliseum and have people from all faiths together in this coliseum, chanting the name of God. Whoever God is to them, just chanting it. And I tell you, we're going to reverse the Tower of Babel. It may sound like Babel at first, but all these different names of God raising up will find union and create a whole atmosphere that will really radiate love and power to all mankind. Maybe someday we can rent the Coliseum and just invite everybody. There'll be huge buses coming from everywhere. We'll just be chanting there. We'll be chanting the name of God. Oh, what fun. Well, why would the name of God be so important? Well, gee whiz, you don't expect me to say it all today. But among the things why the chanting the name of God is so important is our mind is usually articulating delusion. Out of its confusion, it's saying this, 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 this. Delusion can be just taking the part for the whole. In other words, unless we are seeing everything in its wholeness, in its place in God, that's delusion. So even if it's a nice fact, a pleasant fact, like maybe it's just your address. If you can't say your address while thinking of God, you're in a state of delusion. If you can't tell people your post office box or your phone number without being conscious of God, and who's conscious of God when they say their phone number? So you're taking a part for the whole. So that's delusion. So it's not only saying, I gotta get that guy, that's delusion, of course, but it's the more subtle things, like faking out God on a regular basis in meditation, hiding. It's an interesting thing. God saying, am I really that terrible? I mean, I'll bet, it'd be just the age to have a paranoid God. Yes. Will I disturb them if I go in now? I'll bet they're talking about how cruel I am today. Wouldn't that be terrible? The age of the paranoid God, just terrified by his subjects. Well, anyway, throw that idea away, please. Or if your God, if your concept of God is that of a paranoid God, make the contact. Poor fella. So, what happens when you chant the name is you're declaring wholeness. You're experiencing a unity. You're experiencing an interplay with the reality instead of a partial or instead of ignoring it. So that's basically it. Instead of the speech declaring delusion, which causes all kinds of bad karmas and more delusion, instead of the mind declaring delusion, which causes more and more chaos, at least, even in a begrudging way when you chant, all right, just chanting the name like a wheel that needs oil, even chanting that way, that helps because the mind is not growing in delusion. It's becoming more unified. It's more able to identify its divine love, its divine source, that wholeness of which all these parts come. So just chanting the name, even at the beginning stage, does an amazing thing because you're growing toward the Lord every time you chant it. The name itself has power. The name itself is energy. Through the name comes the experience of the reality, or through the name, the reality comes to you, etc. He said for most people, but not for all, if you're really good intellectual, which is very rare, and we really treasure your presence today. If you're really fine intellectual, maybe you can conceive of God as formless, invisible light. But light itself is a form, so you've got to think through the light to something else. If it's just light and sound, it's form. So you got to go beyond the light and sound. So he says for most people today, being human, having the limitations of the human mind, why don't you think of God as being like a person? Since the main problems in life seem to be how to be a person and how that person can relate to God, why don't you give God the grace, the favor of letting God be a person to you? And so what you do is you choose some form of God, like Jesus the Christ, or Moses, or Krishna, Chaitanya, Buddha, Ramakrishna, Kali. You choose some form of God that is most easy for your mind to think about. Some form of God, like a picture, or a painting, or a piece of sculpture. You strive to think of God as the infinite energy, yes, no doubt, taking form and shape in that picture, or through that form, or through your mental picture, maybe no physical picture, but taking form, condensing his being, focalizes his being to love you and bless you. And that's by far the easiest way to see God and to know the Lord. Choose some form of God, let God love you through that form. Christianity says images are heathen worship and things of this sort. And it's interesting, the Christians who seem to be getting the most out of their faith today, are those who really think a lot about Jesus, the form of Jesus, the love of Jesus. When you're in trouble especially, the absolute form of God gives very little comfort. You need the feeling of a divine presence in your room, in your house, in your life, beside you. And that tends to be a human craving. Now, if that doesn't work for you, maybe you should try formless. But the point is, choose an ishta if you want to most rapidly fulfill the yearning of your heart if you're 99% normal. Well, who's 99% normal? I mean, if you're one of the normality of the human race at this time. Then he said an interesting thing quite often. Cry for God. Instead of crying about your income tax and your rent and this or that economic or political issue, he says, whatever you would cry for God instead. How many people really cry for the Lord? This means when you get your emotion behind it, it washes your heart clean, and it's clean enough to behold the Lord. Cry for God with a yearning heart. Don't cry for God because you can turn on the spigots, because that doesn't do much. But cry for God with a yearning heart. I yearn for you, Lord. I yearn for you. I need you in my life. And that sight to the Lord, from what I understand from the saints, is the most precious sight in terms of when God means more to you than anything in your world. Then comes that divine romance. And isn't this true of human romance? The parties have to be convinced that they mean something very, very important, or there's no romance. They have to mean something very important to one another. When you can cry for God with a yearning heart, those tears and that energy frees the heart, cleans it out, so that you can have these pure emotions that are necessarily involved in a constant walk with God. And suppose your heart's not very pure and you're just crying out, yearning for the Lord will take that and He'll come and He'll help you purify the heart more so He can be a permanent resident in your heart, in your conscious heart. So, next one. Take the consolidating help of the yogas. There are different beautiful ways that yoga can help you consolidate your relationship with the Lord. Take that help. It's wonderful. And that's why we say we'd love to help you find from our various beautiful teachings the meditation object and the manner that's most suitable to you. Okay, another point that he made is today you just can't repress and suppress the subconscious mind. All this confusion and delusions gonna get you if you don't pay attention to it. So with the help of the Divine Mother, you've got to, by the Divine Mother, with the help of God, loving you and not censuring you, but loving you, there has to be, bit by bit, this ventilation of the subconscious mind. There has to be this freeing of these negative, painful, prideful, scary, anxious thought forms, lustful, greedy. This is why Sri Ramakrishna practiced so much tantric sadhana. Now, it's true that some of you, by the time you get here, have done a lot of yoga for many lifetimes, in which case you're farther down the line, and that's fine. If you find that you have no trouble telling the truth and doing the truth, you've done some sadhana before. If you find it easy to chant the name, all of these are indications. If you find it easy to love God in form and formless, if you find it easy to cry for God with a yearning heart, this is a sign of sadhana in past lives. But all of these are absolutely essential, those mentioned today, for any human being who wants to find the fulfillment of his life and find the divine relationship. As a result of practicing these, then develops the faith. And faith is necessary because you're going to be walking alone from most of humanity. Most of humanity does not have faith in higher things. They're busy pursuing limited things, transitional things, or very interesting that have no consequence ultimately. So there must be developing a faith in yourself as a spiritual being, and a faith in God as your loved one, as your beloved. As this faith develops, you'll change the world. Your experience of life will be transformed. You won't think it's a Kali Yuga anymore. You're going to be living in your Satya Yuga, your age of truth, right there, spang in the middle of the Kali Yuga. You'll change your world, your experience of life, and you'll begin to radiate a change that goes around the world, lifting and ennobling others, and enabling others to grow and do their sadhana.